name is Peristu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. Are you seeking a blissful escape to rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul? Look no further than Kualoli Yoga Retreat on the Big Island of beautiful Hawaii. Please visit KUALOLIRETREATS.com for further information. Today's episode is part 2 of a 2-part series with my beautiful, resilient, courageous friend, entrepreneur, teacher, and healer, Miss Robin Duryea, as my guest. Robin has embraced the positive and empowering aspects of being a highly sensitive person, has unleashed her superpowers, and has built a highly successful yoga retreat in Hawaii called Kualoli. Robin, now I want to switch gears and I want to talk about your resilience. I know we've talked about it, touched on it a little bit throughout already, but if you're willing to share, I would love to have you tell us the story about how you got to Hawaii.
Oh, yes. This is a good one. It's a very long story. So I will do the best I can to condense it. Let's see. Well, I'm grown now. I'm an adult now. So for most of my life, I've been practicing meditation, and I've been practicing various forms of meditation. Meditation in its essence is very simple. You could even think of it as the practice of learning to listen. Prayer when we speak to God, meditation when we listen. And I was practicing for a while now a technique called Tonglen meditation. It's from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And it was during COVID 2020, and I was experiencing a lot of pain in the right side of my body. It was very specific in my right shoulder. And I just rationalized it to being stress, COVID, being cooped up in the house, all the obvious rational thoughts. And so I was doing everything I could to make it go away. I was doing my meditation, I was taking baths, riding my bike, playing guitar, my down dogs, all the things to make it go away. And what I learned through the practice of Tonglen is that before we try to control our discomfort, before we try to eradicate it immediately, given we're not in grave danger, that it's information trying to come through, that the body's sending us signals, that spirit's trying to communicate to us through the body. It's also my experience and my belief that all illness, no matter what that illness is spirit trying to grow, spirit trying to communicate, and it's our ability to listen. As simple as a headache. A headache is spirit saying you need more rest. We say it's the body, but it starts in the spiritual self. So when I realized, I'm trying to control the pain before I'm actually listening, let me stop, practice Tonglen. So I sat down in my meditation, and as soon as I went into my practice, I heard a very, very, very clear directive guiding me very specifically to the Big Island of Hawaii, the east side. It was very clear. I heard it as come. And at first it was shocking, but I've been doing this for a long time and engaging with energy and in the spirit realm that it wasn't new for me. And I resisted at first. I said no at first. What is this? I also heard in my body coming through earth, earth, earth. My body was needing earth. So I spent some time researching places to go that were a little bit easier than Hawaii, places I could drive to. And I kept hearing it. I kept hearing, come, come, come. And it's my experience that when spirit calls, it's our job to listen. And so I bought a one-way ticket. I had no idea what to expect. Bought a one-way ticket thinking I'd be here for just maybe a couple months. My body and my spirit needed a moment to rest, reprieve, get inspired. And I'd been looking online at places to stay, and because of the nature of the time, there weren't too many options. And actually, the one Airbnb that I had found 2 days before my flight was supposed to leave, they canceled on me. It's like, oh, okay, great. And not surprising, because this is how it works. There's always going to be some missteps. That's part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one place that I saw on Craigslist, there wasn't much. It was still available. So I reached out to her, and I didn't tell her the whole story. She didn't need to know, but she invited me over, and the plan was to stay for a couple months. And when I landed here, I was in my practice. I was in my practice of listening, which means that often when I meet people, I'll engage in dialogue, or I love music, so I'll have my music on in the car or at home or my earbuds in, and I wasn't engaging in any of that. I was letting myself be with myself and the land. I didn't have my usual distractions around me, and I was in my deep practice of silence and listening. And I'd walk out onto the lava every day, and I would share with her what I was feeling and what was coming through. And then I would just listen, and I would get intuitive directives on what to do. And at first, Spirit guided me through some admin work, which I thought was pretty funny. So I'd been here for about a month at this time. And the first thing I heard was, go open a P.O. box. I thought, that's strange. I'm leaving in another month or so. That's weird, but I did it. I went and opened a P.O. box, no problem. And the next directive I got was, go open a bank account. Oh my gosh, that's strange. That sounds annoying. I don't want to go open a bank account, but I did it. And the next directive I get, and this is over the course of about a month, the next directive I get is to go online and start looking at property. And I'm not versed in real estate and buying and selling of properties, so that wasn't a go-to thought of mine. So when the directive came through, I was a little resistant, but I did it. And as I'm scrolling through and just looking to see what's going on, I scroll to this specific property. And I noticed in my body had a very, very clear reaction. My body lit up. Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
And when I was looking at it, it physically looked like my apartment in the city. It just was grander, a lot bigger, but I could see my life in this space. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I scrolled down a little bit further, and I see that the listing agent for this particular property was the woman that I was renting from.
Wow. That's
Okay.
amazing.
So that's how it works. We get all these signs and these connect the dots moments. So that right there created a big opening into, okay, something's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to her. I'd been here at this point for about a month or so, and her and I started to get to know each other and develop a relationship. So it felt appropriate to share with her what was going on a little bit. And she very kindly encouraged me to look elsewhere, because this property had so much attention. People were flying in from all across the country to look at it. It was getting all cash offers, sight unseen. The gentleman who was wanting to sell it was, was being a little back and forth about it. Was a little unsure. He knew he had to sell, but wasn't sure. So she encouraged me to look elsewhere. And I thought, great, off the hook. And so then we went together to look at about 8 other properties, and nothing spoke to me. My body had no response. that's the other thing, I guess, to interject about what we call highly sensitive is the tools for communicating, the tools for listening. The body, spirit, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is always communicating through the body. And for those of us who feel we're sensitive, we can receive that information with a lot more ease.
Yep.
And that is a huge gift. That is a huge gift. So trust it, develop your listening skills, develop your trusting skills. Don't worry about any mistakes made. It's okay. That's part of the fun. And so my body was sending me signals, and nothing really looked so good that I was looking at. Nothing lit me up. So then I got another intuitive hit of a list of 22 points, and I wrote them down. It was very specific. Look for X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I shared it with this woman, this realtor who I was renting from. And I shared it. And I was a little shy to share it because there was some personal stuff on there. It wasn't just logistics.
Mm-hmm.
And when I shared it with her, she responded back with a lot of enthusiasm. I think she really appreciated the personal element that was involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I really appreciate this list. It's really nice to see. Actually, the owner of the property is out of town for the day. I think I can sneak you on, but we're only going to have about 20 minutes.
Wow, that's
You can.
awesome.
All right, let's do it. So we had a day, we planned to meet up, and it was pouring rain. It was torrential pouring rain. And we meet up, and we're standing in one of the structures, out of the rain, and I'm looking around at the property, and everything in my body lit on fire. Everything in my body just said yes, 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 yes. And everything in my head went, no, which I think is also important to really note, because our head and our bodies, our head and our heart are not always going to be in alignment, because the mind is conditioned to protect us. The mind has been conditioned by our parents and our schooling and our government and our religions and all the things. The mind's been so conditioned. And so the mind will fight back, even when the body is a very clear yes. So I knew that. I knew to listen to my body and listen to my heart and not let my mind take over. But my mind was terrified because it meant we were going to go deep into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in my body said yes, 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 yes. And so that's the first chapter. And then from there, it was a really slow process. I lived out of my suitcase for about a year to make it happen. So much happened. I had to, at one point, was leading a retreat in Mexico, so I needed to create space for that. My golden ticket was I owned my apartment in the city. So I had to sell that in order to make this work. Also, this property was off-grid, meaning self-sustaining, solar, water catchment, septic, which I have no experience with. I'm a city girl. And so I started studying everything. I just went online and researched. I went to the Home Depot website and researched, how much does a rake cost? How much does a riding lawnmower cost? How much is a bed? How many beds? So then I started to spreadsheet, because that's the other thing that, at least through my own practices, I've really learned to bring balance between the head and the heart. So I let my heart lead. I let my body lead, because my mind had fears and doubts. But then when it was time, when I felt an alignment with my body, I brought in my mind, my rational side. So I studied and I made lists of everything I would need, and I got real clear. So I was bringing in both aspects. It's not one or the other, it's both in balance.
Yes.
And so I called the woman that I bought my apartment from 7 years prior. And because I didn't have a lot of experience, so I didn't really know what to do or where to go. And I told her what I was doing. And she said that I probably wouldn't get that cost for my house during COVID. Well, I've also learned that no's don't mean anything. And so I said, no problem. You're not my realtor. Click.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, within the hour, a friend of mine who I was sharing this with said, hey, Robin, I know the realtor for you. And so I reach out to him. He's in San Francisco. And he said, Robin, this realtor said, Robin, I know who you are. I used to go to your kirtans in San Francisco. And before COVID hit, I took a year off real estate because I always wanted to be a flight attendant. So I became a flight attendant for Hawaiian Air. And I used to stay just down the road from where you're looking at. So I know exactly where you are. I know exactly what you're trying to do. Yes, we can make this happen.
That is amazing. That's
it
like
was
huge. I mean, it's like everything is being aligned.
It's really true. It really is. The power of sensitivity is that, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. When you tune in to your senses and what the messages and the information that's coming through, when you learn how to listen and when you learn how to discern, that's the other in yoga, it's called viveka. When you learn how to discern the information that's coming through, everything actually becomes a lot easier. You don't actually have to try as hard. The effort that I had to put forth was not in the logistical, rational side of things. The effort that I had to put forth was in overcoming, navigating, evolving my fear, my doubt, my insecurities, which there's always going to be. Whenever we grow, there's always going to be doubt. Doubt doesn't mean stop. Doubt just means you're on the precipice of growth.
Yes.
Doubt doesn't mean we're not capable. It's not going to happen. Doubt just means you're at a point in which you're at a crossroads. So gather the information you need so you can keep going. So that's what I did. So in all my doubt, and there were many tears, and can I do this? Am I smart enough? Am I strong enough? Do I have enough resources? So I really put my effort in evolving my doubts and my fears. And by doing so, all the logistical stuff works itself out. And that's really what happened. And that was my process. And it did. It took about a year, and I could keep going. There's so many other elements to the story, but this is the general theme and the general idea on how it went. And what I find is the great reminder is work on your inner self, work on your fears, work on your doubts. Those are natural. They're not the enemy. They are your friends. They just suggest moments of growth. Gather the knowledge you need. Give yourself the time to do what you have to do to evolve them. And the pieces reveal themselves as they're needed. And patience, that's a huge element too. Like, I was born into a culture where my father's in the corporate world and my sister followed suit, and that just wasn't my world. It's just so limiting to me. And and there's such an emphasis to be in the logistical side of things, but there's so much struggle in that. There's so much struggle, and so it's so limiting. Like I always say, I like to follow the laws of nature, not the rules of man. The rules of man are very limited. Oh, that won't work. This isn't the right time. That's only if you follow the rules of man. But if you're following the rules, or excuse me, the laws rather, they're not rules, the laws of nature, anything and everything is possible. And so that's why circling back to belonging, really allowing that sense of belonging to come from a deep space within first. And from there, we meet the right people. We also acknowledge that those relationships will change, they evolve, and that's okay, because we'll then meet someone else. And to really give ourselves permission to be patient. I think I went off on a tangent. That's the other part, is be patient, the timeline. The corporate world works on a timeline. By the time you're this age, by the time, after 3 months of surgery, you should be good. Life's not linear. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so I've developed patience through my practice. I've learned patience. That's the other thing. I hear people say, oh, I'm not patient. You're only not patient because you say you're not patient. Everything's a muscle. Patience is a muscle. Forgiveness is a muscle. Overcoming doubt is a muscle. And so we just develop it. And that's a huge ingredient, I find, because when so much information comes through all the time, patience creates space to process and develop viveka, discernmentship, so then you can determine the right course of action. And it's not going to be on a calendar clock week timeline. It's going to be on an energetic timeline. So giving permission for that for oneself, I think, is a really important ingredient. Patience. Nothing in my life was according to the structured, scripted timeline. And I'm grateful for that. So
Yeah.
that's that part of the story. We can do another podcast on the other part of the story, but that's,
But
the
your
beginning stage.
story is so beautiful because it outlines, I mean, when I was listening to you, I was like, wow, there's so many aspects of the high sensitivity playing here. One is your intuition, listening to your body. Highly sensitive people absolutely get messages from their bodies if they know how to, like you said, you have to, it's kind of like a muscle where you have to keep practicing and listening and listening. And over the years, you get better and better and better at it. And you also trust it more because when you see that it's correct every time, then you're like, okay, I'm going to trust this. I'm going to go with it because in the past, it's proven to be correct. So you use your
That's right.
intuition when you didn't, you use your, basic being super resilient because, first of all, oh my God, who moves all the way to Hawaii from San Francisco during COVID of all times when everybody is super afraid and they're staying put in their homes and not even going outside because they're so afraid of catching this. You, on the other hand, get on a plane and go and explore this path that is calling to you. And it's just so amazing to be that strong and that resilient to embrace something so foreign to you and so unknown during a pandemic, a global pandemic. To me, that if that's not resilience, I don't know what is really. And then the fact
I
that,
do think it's a, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Well, I was going to say too, just to give a little more context, I I didn't even know I'm 900 square feet in San Francisco. It's the size of my apartment. I had to Google an acre. So I didn't even know what an acre was. So I think
I love it.
just giving a little context because it's not unusual to move. It's not unusual to go somewhere to a new city or a new town and start a new life. It's not so unusual, but the context of everything, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't pre-plan it. It wasn't a premeditated thought. I hadn't been thinking about it, kind of toying with the idea for years prior. It was just straight out of the blue. I was summoned by spirit. I was summoned by spirit. Come.
Exactly.
And so I think that's an important element because a lot of times we expect there to be a lot of pre-planning in order to keep us safe. But sometimes, especially when you do have that sensitivity and you're engaged in that and that way of being, you don't have the rational side of I didn't know this part of the island. The last time I was on this island actually was with my grandmother 30 years prior. So I didn't know the area. I didn't know the community that was here. I knew nothing about it.
Yeah,
And so I think that can be part of the factor that differentiates it from other moves. It was completely blind.
absolutely.
And
And
yeah,
that's why it's a great example of resilience because
yeah,
because it's not, yes, of course, I have moved across, I've moved to Europe out of the blue. I decided to go and live in Europe when I was going through my divorce, and I didn't know anything about France. I didn't know the language. I didn't know any, I knew some colleagues, but I didn't know much about the country or its language or anything else for that matter. And I just decided to move there. But your story is so unique, and it's a great example of the resilience, the tenacity, the strength, the intuition that a highly sensitive person has. Um, because you just decided, I'm listening to this voice that's talking to me inside of my body, and I'm going to
yes,
follow it. And that
yes.
is very profound. I mean, when you told me this story, before, you had told me the story when we met. I think it was in your retreat in Mexico. And I was just at awe of how first of all, how you got this calling, how there's this voice telling you to go to Hawaii, and how you followed it during the pandemic, how you made it work despite the realtor telling you, oh, this is not a good market to sell your property. You're like, I don't care about what you're saying. I'm doing it. I'll just find a person that aligns with me. And you did. And it didn't even take you that long. And then you were able to
Yeah.
sell it and get a great price for it. It wasn't even that you sacrificed anything. You know what I mean? Like everything worked out the way it was supposed to for you because you.
Well, I did sacrifice. I did. I sacrificed a lot. And I did. I sacrificed my comfort. I sacrificed my security. I sacrificed my known life. And I think that was part of my process. Was I very much was clearly making big sacrifice for this.
Yeah.
And because I had.
Let me correct myself. I meant to say, like, you did it. You know how the first realtor said this is not a good market for.
Oh, okay.
No. I meant specifically in respect to selling your home, that you didn't
Got
lose.
it. Yep.
You didn't lose money on the property. Like that first realtor was not correct in saying this is not
Correct.
a
Yeah.
good market for you to sell your property. You did sell it and you sold it for a good price. That's what I meant. Not like
Yeah. Yeah.
you didn't sacrifice
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, no, definitely you sacrificed a lot, of course. But I'm really, really proud of you. I mean, honestly, you always are telling me stories like this where I'm like just in awe of what you accomplished. The fact that you lived out of your suitcase for a whole year. And of course, we don't have time to go into the amount of work you put into this property to transform it into this amazing place that I'm super excited to finally be able to come and visit during your next retreat in July. And for those of you listening, if you ever want to, if you haven't been to a retreat, I highly encourage you to go to Robin's retreat in Hawaii. I've done Robin's retreats many, many times, and they are phenomenal. I mean, they're like next level. And that's the other thing, because, highly sensitive people are all about beautifying things. Like you give them something that is super ugly and hideous and nobody sees any beauty in it, and you give it to a highly sensitive person and they transform that thing and make it into this beautiful, magical thing, which is exactly what Robin has done with her property in Hawaii. I don't know, Robin, if you want to say anything more about that.
Well, there was one other thing that came up as you were talking that I've utilized that's been helpful for me and could be helpful for other people who, who feel who have that sensitivity is when I get a lot of information that's guiding me to try a project or to do something, I keep it to myself. I don't share it. We live now in a time where we're encouraged to share everything with everyone all the time. And I actually don't agree with that. And I don't engage in that practice. And it's really understanding the difference between secret and sacred. When something's sacred, we keep it close. We keep it close to ourselves. We keep our jewels in a jewelry box, and we have those sacred moments of exchange with a loved one that we keep close to our heart. And so for me, and I would suggest other people try this, when you're working on something that is really coming from deep within, to keep it to yourself for the incubation stage until you've really become aligned with it, and know who your counsel is. Know who your counsel is, meaning those, and all you need is one, but those 5 people, those 7 people, or just one person that you can bounce your ideas off with, but really refrain from sharing it with everyone, because most people live in fear. Most people don't follow their hearts. Most people don't take big risks in their life. And I'm not intending to say that with judgment. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Most people don't. We're not encouraged to. We don't live in a culture that supports it. And so again, people may be well-intentioned, but they'll project their fears onto you. And then their fears will exacerbate your fears. And so a really profound practice that I've engaged in for most of my life is whenever I'm working on something that requires my attention, my devotion that's coming from deep within, I keep it to myself. And again, I share it with just those few people I know who will be honest with me, who will be supportive with me. And that helps a lot with, so you don't have all that extra information coming in, their fears and their judgments and their resistance, and keep it to yourself. And that's what I did for the first leg of this journey, is I kept it to myself.
That's really amazing advice. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I did the same thing when I decided to pivot my career and become a coach to parents of highly sensitive children. And even with this podcast, I started working with the producer before I told anybody about it. I just decided to do it
Yeah.
and see, and I didn't want other people's advice or ideas change my mind. Not that I would have, because I'm pretty strong. I'm like you. I mean, when I want to do something, um, it's very rare that somebody can influence me not to do it, but I still didn't want to hear it. I just wanted to try it, learn for myself whether I want it or not, and not be influenced in any way, shape, or form by other people. And I think that's really wonderful advice, Robin.
Yeah. 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 And Kualoli is the name of the property. It was the name before I acquired it, and means transformation in Hawaiian, Kualoli. And we are at the base of Kilauea volcano. And we also have butterfly habitats. So all of that symbolizing the beauty and power of transformation, the necessity of transformation, and acknowledging transformation as a gift, not something to be feared so much as learning to co-collaborate in an exciting way. And the land here is so incredibly unique. This little plot of land, just the veil between the material world and the energetic spiritual world is very thin here. And it's a wonderful place to reconnect with the deeper aspects of life and of being, and to realign our natural rhythms, the circadian rhythm, and the rhythms of joy and peace and ease. It's really my experience and my belief that, the spirit is one of benevolence. It's one that it's loving, and it's here for us, and it cares for us, and it's not to be afraid of. No, we don't need to fear it, but to really learn to be loved. It's a great place to learn to be loved, to let yourself be loved. We're being guided all the time, and we're being given what we need all the time. And it's our job to listen and to develop discernment so we can create right action. And being here, just a really short story. I had a woman here doing work trade, and she was in charge of cleaning the lotus pond, and it needs mostly daily cleaning. And a couple of days went by without her attention, and she came back. She said, "I just cleaned this a couple of days ago, and all the air plants have grown back over the pond." And I looked at her and I said, "That's abundance."
Oh,
That's
I love
abundance.
that.
Abundance isn't just the things that we like or the things that we think we want. Abundance is nature never doesn't give, ever. She's always giving. We may have labeled weeds as being a nuisance, but
Mhm.
at the root of it, that's abundance. She never stops giving. And our body is the vehicle for that receiving. And so for those of us who do have that heightened sensitivity, thank God. Thank God we have it. And yes, it's going to come with struggles, and it's going to come with challenges. But those challenges and struggles lead to something just so profoundly beautiful that it makes every tear, every struggle just worth it. And to not give up on yourself, and to not be too quick to view your child's sensitivity as a burden, but to recognize that the gifts that they have can be felt and shared by everyone around them, including those who aren't sensitive in the same way. And so to, just recognize that everything we need is being given from the inside always, and to just have fun with it. Just take your whole lifespan and just have fun with it.
I
Yeah.
that. Thank you, Robin. That's so beautiful. Anything else before we wrap up? Anything else that you want to share with our listeners? Do you want to say anything about um, your yoga retreat in July and what people can expect from that? I know I will be there and I'm super excited.
Yeah, excuse me, since being out here, before being here, I led group retreats for many years, and I'm continuing to do them. So I do have a retreat July 20th through the 27th that I'm opening to anybody who's interested. You can reach out to me, Kualoli, if you can find it online.
Yes, and I will
But also I've been, yeah,
on the podcast as well. I'll post a link as well. Go ahead.
yeah. I've also been focusing on, it just started happening naturally, one-on-one retreats, and those have been incredible. People come for any amount of days that they're able to come, 4, 7. I did a 10-day private retreat. 4 days is a good amount of time. And we get to work one-on-one with each other, and we get to go a lot deeper. And it's a fantastic way to supercharge what somebody is doing. And if there's any area in someone's life that they're wanting support in to create growth, reconnection, that's available too. Working one-on-one. Group are great. Group retreats are wonderful. It's just a different kind. And so one-on-one. And kids, if you have kids, kids love it here. Kids come here and babies come here. It's so fun to watch kids' reactions here. It's really cool. So
And I think
um,
for a highly sensitive child, it's going to be an amazing place to go to because,
it's
it's full of
very
nature.
peaceful here.
You talked about the butterfly sanctuary. I know that you can go and swim with the dolphins in the real, like in the ocean, not like paying someone to swim with the dolphins, which I don't support because I don't know if the dolphins are, being captivated. I don't support that. But in Hawaii, where you are, in the part of Hawaii where you are at, I know, Robin, you've mentioned before to me that because I love dolphins, and swimming with them is like, it's like a dream for me. You can actually swim with the dolphins in the ocean there, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it's wild, it's always a
Yeah.
chance. But
Yeah.
living here, yeah, they frequently are here. The beach that I'm near, I'm just 5 minutes from Kahana, Black Sand Beach. It's also nicknamed Dolphin Cove, and it's actually a really sacred beach in the Hawaiian culture. A time ago, it was the beach where they considered their departed loved ones would make the journey to heaven. So it's a
Wow.
very sacred place out here, and the Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian land, the aloha spirit. There's a word malama in Hawaiian. It means caretaker, to be a steward. And so being out here, we learn to be caretakers and stewards of the land, the earth, which also includes our bodies and our minds and our hearts and each other. And so there's a lot of remembering and reconnecting that happens out here. And we are isolated a little bit, which makes it so peaceful.
Mm.
And there's some hot springs nearby, and the weather is wild. It's sunny and it rains, and there's rainbows, and it's absolutely beautiful.
And the
And
night
the place
sky too. That's something I'm looking forward to coming to see as well,
yeah,
as you described all the, beautiful night sky that you see full of stars and shooting stars. And I know kids,
yeah,
at least I know when I was a kid, I loved looking at the sky and looking at all the stars and seeing if I could see a shooting star. That was my favorite thing to do.
yeah. Yeah. When I was in the city recently, had this thought that nature is truth, and living in urban environments is our interpretation of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so out here, you're just reminded that there is no lack. We have made created lack in the human construct, but in the truth of nature, there's no lack.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing really to be afraid of, that we're loved and we're held. And it's not easy to remember this, of course. It's not to oversimplify. It's not always easy to remember this. So being out here, it's very easy to remember this. And so coming out here is a great opportunity to get that deep remembrance. So when you go home, you have that wellspring to draw from when it becomes not so easy. So if you're a nature lover, if you're looking to have support in growth and spiritual, growth, I invite anyone who's interested to come out. Yeah, it's a really, really special place, and it's an honor to care for it. And so my role is to just share it. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Robin. And thank you so much for being here today with us. You've shared so much of your wisdom and have given our listeners a lot of great advice. And you've been very vulnerable in sharing your story, your experience in life. Thank you so much. This means the world to me. And as you know, bringing awareness to high sensitivity is something that is very dear to my heart. And it's a global movement that I started about a year ago that I'm really hoping to be able to change people's lives with it. And I know that in your own life, I've seen it with my own two eyes, where you definitely have a profound impact on people's lives, including mine. So I want to say thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. And I just words can't describe the gratitude that I have for you.
Oh, Perstu, thank you. Same. Thank you. Appreciate it.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.